I'm giving out one bet for every single fight this weekend at UFC Vegas 111. If you watched the show last week, you already know we absolutely crushed it. Tons of plus money. We hit Charles Radke by finish. Also called out the sub plus 650. We also hit Elikana and Christian to end by sub plus 275. And all of these other plays that you guys can see right here. I did tell you guys on this video, I'm going to do a giveaway for 100. I'm going to send 100 to somebody through Venmo or PayPal. All you got to do is be subscribed, like this video, and drop a comment, and I'm going to choose one person to send that money to. I love giving back to you guys. I love sending these ghost packages, everything, man. It's one of my favorite parts of the week is just interacting, seeing the comments. You guys really make this what it is and make it possible, so I got to give back to you guys. I don't want to waste much time. I want to have another good week, another banger. We're back at the Apex after the whole betting scandal, and watch out because people are going to start blaming their losing bets on rigging and fight fixing. You guys know it's coming, so buckle in. We're in for a crazy rest of the year in the UFC. But to kick off this card, we're getting Miles Johns and Daniel Marcos. Look, I'm going to go ahead from the jump and tell you why I kind of lean towards the underdog here. First of all, with these odds in this close of a fight, I think it is dog or pass. Daniel Marcos is minus 185. He didn't look very good in his last fight. He's gone to super close fights with guys like Davey Grant. He's not out there finishing that many fighters as well. He does tend to slow down and start kind of cruising in round 3. But, I look at Miles Johns. It's not like he's a great striker. He's not, fluid with his striking, but he is aggressive. He likes to march forward, and he'll mix in takedowns and go to his wrestling. And we saw that in his last fight more than ever. I think he knows that he's got to start stringing together wins. I mean, if you look at his record and his stats, he is a wrestling base, but he's not going out there and trying to do it, 24/7 in these fights. He's not a phenomenal striker to where he shouldn't be wrestling either. I think he has to implement that wrestling to get wins in the UFC. And he tried last fight against Gene Matsumoto, and I think he landed 4 or 5 takedowns there. He actually landed a ton of significant strikes too. So those are all good signs for me to where if I think he does both those things, has decent volume, mixes in the wrestling, he's at least going to make this very, very close against Daniel Marcos. So I'm taking Miles Johns, his spread at plus 3.5, which, he's just got to win on the judges, or he can lose on the judges' scorecards 29-28, and we cash this play. I think he wins one round for sure. And then you can sprinkle on his money line, plus 155. I don't think that's a bad bet whatsoever because, again, I think if you look at the odds on the spread, it's minus 170 for him to win one round. The books are telling you they think it's a good chance he's going to win one of those. Plus 155 then for him to win one more, not too bad whatsoever. So Miles Johns on the spread, plus 3.5. Sprinkle money line, plus 155 to kick off this card. All right, next fight. Tisha Pennington and Denise Gomes is another fight that's interesting, man, because Tisha Pennington, I always want to say Torres, she goes to these close split decisions with a lot of fighters. We saw her drop one to Tabitha Ricci in a fight that a lot of people thought that she won. And, it's basically based on her volume. She's durable. She's always in a fight. If this thing goes the distance, you can almost bet that she's going to at least match her opponents in the striking significant strikes numbers, which is good. My downfall for her is that she doesn't have a bunch of finishing upside. Basically, every fight she's been in the UFC has gone to a decision. Yes, she's coming off a win over Luana Pinejo, who I don't think is UFC level. She beat Carla Esparza, which I thought was kind of a robbery. Carla took her down and controlled her most of the fight. And then the losses, man. Tabitha Ricci, split decision. Mackenzie Dern, split decision. Beat Angela Hill. But, Denise Gomes is younger than all these girls for one. And the thing that I like about Gomes is that she's way more aggressive, too. She's in your face. She has a lot of power. She has knockout power for this division. And if she just keeps up the volume, mixes in a little bit of grappling, I think it's going to look good to the judges. I can see how you can make the argument on the other side. But at the end of the day, we've seen Tisha go out there and look good and then not get the nod because her opponents maybe are just doing a little bit more damage or landing the bigger shots. I think Gomes is definitely going to be landing the bigger shots. She's 25 years old compared to Tisha, who's, got a baby at home, is a lot older than Gomes is and probably getting ready to hang it up within the next couple of fights. I'm going to go with Gomes here on the money line. I think she's going to be motivated. She's got to really start getting a couple of statement wins and start climbing the ranks again because now she's on a 3-fight win streak. Beat Eduarda Mora. That's a good win. Beat Karolina Kovalkiewicz. That's a veteran. And knocks out Elise Reed in round 2 viciously. So, yeah, man, I'm going to go with the girl who's going to inflict more damage, who's going to be landing the bigger shots. I'll take the Nisi Gomes. It's not a super confident play, though, whatsoever. All right. We get the heavyweight Colby Covington, Josh Hokit, making his debut against Max Jimenez. And a few things stick out to me. One, Josh Hokit is still very, very green. He's got a wrestling base. Played, a brief stint on an NFL practice squad, I believe, undrafted free agent. So he's very athletic, and he's going to be more athletic than Max in this spot. Now, for Max, hard to find any fights that he had online to watch tape on him. If you YouTube his name and look him up, you're going to find all his jiu-jitsu matches. The guy is a very high-level grappler. He's grappled guys down at lower weight classes before. Now he's fighting at heavyweight. He's a big guy, but without watching his fighting tape, I can tell you one thing, and that's that in some of these jiu-jitsu matches, first of all, when he's fighting the higher-level guys, he's losing. And he's usually losing because he gets so damn tired and he gets put on his back. And, he's not a grappler who's going to look for a bunch of subs off of his back. He's the one that wants to be on top. And like I said, when you're getting tired like that, without even eating shots, without defending a ton of takedown attempts, it's not something that makes me confident or really wanting to take a shot on him at plus 330, because at the end of the day, this guy is still very unknown in mixed martial arts. We don't know what he's going to bring to the table. The UFC wasn't jumping the gun to get him on the Contender Series or anything. So, yeah, for him, he's going to have to defend takedowns. He's going to have to work off of his back. And I think he's going to gas out badly. And Josh Hokit is at least athletic enough to where I think he will land some decent ground and pound, hit some big shots, maybe even knock him out on the feet. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to take Josh Hokit here to win round 1 at win in round 1 at plus 120. And I'm also going to sprinkle on that round 2 at plus 350 to where no matter which one hit, we're going to make some money. I really don't see Jimenez lasting more than 2 rounds. And I don't really see him submitting Josh Hokit because he's going to have to get takedowns of his own. And that's just not really his game. And, you have to eat some big punches too in mixed martial arts. You can't just worry about the grappling. So I think that's a lot for him to think about. I think it's going to make it somewhat tough. And I'm going to rock with it here. All right, next fight up, we're getting Mayra Bueno Silva is taking on Jacqueline Cavalcanti. I'm not going to say I'm not big on Cavalcanti because I know she's talented and got some striking, but she's just been super underwhelming, man. And what I mean is, all you got to do is look at her record. For one, her last fight was against Julia Avila. Avila, older than hell, gray hair showing, just doesn't really do much of anything in there anymore. She just had to skate around the outside and get her leg kicked and kind of beat up by Julia Avila. The fight before that, she beat Nora Cornell by split decision. The fight before that, she beats Josiane Nunez by split decision. I know Cavalcanti won that, and pretty decisively and convincingly. I don't know how it was a split. But the thing is, man, she beat Zara Farn, not very good. Melissa Croden before that, decent win, but she's not finishing any of these fighters. She's not really hurting any of these fighters. And, Mayra Bueno Silva is a girl who will go in there, march forward, apply pressure, look to do damage with the knees and elbows in the clinch. And on the mat, she's going to be far better than Cavalcanti. So, you're giving me a girl in Mayra Bueno Silva who's fought for titles, submitted Holly Holm, has a pretty decent resume compared to Cavalcanti, and she's plus 200 here. The odds don't make sense to me whatsoever. This just tells me the books think that Cavalcanti is just going to skate around the outside and go with leg kicks and use her kickboxing a little bit. But we're in the small cage here. I think Mayra Bueno Silva can kind of trap her into a corner at times and have some decent moments. And I don't think Cavalcanti is going to go out here and finish Mayra Bueno Silva whatsoever. So, you look at a career trajectory standpoint, Cavalcanti might be climbing the ranks and Mayra Bueno Silva starting to fizzle out. But at the end of the day, man, experience matters, durability matters, and the capabilities to finish fights matter too, especially in women's MMA. I don't think Cavalcanti's got really that ability to go out here and finish her. I think Mayra Bueno Silva is very dangerous with the grappling to where she possibly could lock up something. If you're submitting girls like Holly Holm, That's pretty high level. And, I'm not going to put it past Bueno Silva to not land some damaging shots too. So I'm going to take Mayra Bueno Silva on the spread at plus 3.5. This is another one, man, where the spread is a decent number. And it tells you that the books really think that Bueno Silva is going to win at least one round. So, sprinkle the money line if you have to here too. Plus 200 is a phenomenal number for a former title challenger, and pretty recently up against a girl who's, still getting started in the UFC and just has not fought the highest level of competition whatsoever. So Mayra Bueno Silva on the spread plus 3.5, just got to win one round and not get finished. I think she's going to do it. All right. Next fight, Ricky Simone, Raoni Barcelos. And I think Ricky is getting a lot of love in this spot because of his knockout win over Javid Basharat. And I think that's very fair to an extent. Ricky Simone is not really a fighter who's going out there and knocking out a bunch of people, okay? His game in the past has been to go out there, throw that overhand right, but mix in the takedowns. The guy is a very high level and good wrestler. He's very physically strong. But I honestly still think his best days are somewhat behind him. It's not like he's super old, but he's been in there with seemingly everybody. He beat Merab back in the day. It's been a long time. That was a phenomenal win. That was back in 2018. So, beat him by that technical guillotine choke where Merab was out, couldn't answer the bell in the third, or couldn't get back to the stool. But since then, man, he's fought in Uriah Faber, Rob Font, Ray Borg, Sun Sao, Song Yadong, Mario Batista, Vinicius Oliveira recently, Javid Basharat recently. I guess his last win wasn't Javid. It was Cameron Smotherman, who I don't think is UFC level whatsoever. So this is kind of a step up from the last two that he's fought. It seems to be when he makes this jump up, he's dropping a couple of these fights. I mean, I look at Jack Shore, obviously wasn't cut out for the UFC. And then in his next fight, he had to fight Song Yadong, and he gets finished by TKO in round 5. What's his former loss before that? Loses to Rob Font, beats Ray Borg. It's kind of a drop down in competition. So I think he's back going to the other way, where he's going to be fighting a guy in Barcelos who has a ton of experience, has beaten some big names, has fought some really big names, and is quietly on a 3-fight win streak. And it all started with Christian Quinones, where he submits him in round 3, but then he gets Peyton Talbot, and he shocks the world as a massive, massive underdog, just using his wrestling and competing with Talbot on the feet. Then he beats Cody Garbrandt. Garbrandt looked pretty good early, had some moments. Barcelos kind of mixed in the takedowns and wrestling and then boxed him up and just had better cardio and durability than Cody did. I think it's going to be a similar story. I think Ricky Simone could come out here and look decent in round 1. But if you're talking about who's got the better cardio, I'm actually in this spot going to say Raoni Barcelos. And who's got the better boxing? I'm going to say Raoni Barcelos. Who's a guy more often than not that finishes this fight? I think it's Raoni Barcelos. I think he could clip him on the feet, hurt him, do some damage, but I also think he could submit him if Ricky has to try to force the wrestling and grappling. Is Ricky going to knock out Raoni? I don't really see it. Anything's possible. Umar Nurmagomedov accidentally knocked him out. But before that, man, Raoni has been ultra durable. It's been since 2014, since the last time he was finished, other than Umar Nurmagomedov. So, that's good. I think he's an absolute stud, even for his age. It looks like he's been getting the good medicines down there in Brazil. Looks to be in phenomenal shape. I'm going to take a shot on the underdog here. I'm going to take Raoni Barcelos. It just seems to be this pattern with Simone where he wins a couple, and then he's got that jump up in comp, and he struggles a little bit. Either way, even if Barcelo loses this fight, I think it's a very, very evenly matched and close one. So if you're going to give me one guy at plus 142, I'm going to take it. Call that dog or pass. So give me Raoni Barcelos on the money line. Next fight, Haider Amil versus Jamal Emmers. And this one's very, very interesting, but I kind of have a confident take here. First of all, Jamal Emmers, I think, is the more talented fighter of these two. He's a guy who can mix in wrestling, very athletic, good power, good straight right down the middle. He's more of just like a more complete mixed martial artist than Haider Amil is. What Haider does well, obviously, is he's a hurricane, man. He marches forward. He's going to wing hooks, throw bombs, and he's going to do that until either you break or he puts himself in the fight and he just starts taking over because he has more output and he's landing more and he's more aggressive. Like, that's kind of how he beat William Gomes. Gomes was on the back foot. Amil was eating all of his shots, marching forward, and was just landing and throwing a little bit more. He went out there against Jung Young Lee and got into that barroom brawl and hit him with the 70 punch combination until the ref had to step in. It was a standing TKO. It was pretty nasty. Also got the standing TKO on Fernie Garcia before that. He just overwhelms these fighters, and you can see it start to happening little by little in some of these fights. And then he gets knocked out by Jose Delgado by a knee up the middle. I chalk that up to him getting clipped. If those two would have went a full 15 minutes, I think Delgado probably had him because of the skill and the durability. But at the same time, I think Hyder works himself into that fight when Delgado starts slowing down. And round 3 with Amil marching you down is not where you want to be whatsoever. And that's what concerns me for Jamal Emmers. I mentioned how talented he is and, the weapons and tools that he has. And sure, I mean, he has a chance to come out here and knock out Amil in round 1. But if he doesn't, and I kind of lean towards him not being able to, Hyder's going to pressure him. I think Hyder has the ability to break him, and I think Hyder has the ability to finish him as well. And, you look at Jamal, been knocked out 3 times, been submitted twice. So this guy is not the most durable in the world. We saw Nate Landwehr, be dead to rights, come back in round 1 and finish him. We've seen him lose by submission to Pat Sabatini after looking good. So, yeah, this guy, he makes some questionable decisions in there. He's hurtable, and he's finishable. But again, if he wins, man, I could see it being a round 1 finish. So my official play is going to be this fight to end inside the distance. But I would look at Hyder by KO as a little sprinkle here too. I think in rounds 2 and 3, it could be super, super live. That is what we were rocking with for this fight, though. Decent little card at the Apex. I said it last week. It ended up being an absolute circus show. But this one, I think I think this one is going to produce, and especially with this next fight, Marco Tulio and Christian Leroy Duncan. Marco Tulio is like this new shiny toy in the UFC. Everybody loves to watch him fight. He's super skilled. He's aggressive, dangerous, has a good jiu-jitsu and a grappling game. Went out there against Tresean Gore and did what he was supposed to do. But the one thing I've noticed in some of his fights is that Marco Tulio is there to be hit. And when he starts moving up in levels of competition, I think could become a problem. Marco Tulio also, it was just in Vegas focused on his girlfriend, Norma Dumont's girlfriend, wife, whatever it is, her fight. The guy's staying busy. I'm not saying that's going to take away from his focus for his fight or anything like that, but he's a busy guy. And I look at Christian Leroy Duncan, got back into the win column, is now on a 2-fight win streak, beat Andre Pulaev, doing what he had to do in that fight just to get by, knocks out Eric Anders in round 1. Really, his only bad performance was against, I guess you could say, Gregory Rodriguez, who's just an absolute freak and a super stud. And the other one is Armen Petrosian. That one's concerning to me because Armen Petrosian is either been cut from the UFC or wasn't re-signed or whatever, but he kind of brings that kick-heavy striking style that I think Tulio could implement here too. I mean, if you look at both of these fighters face-to-face and who's going to be walking forward and who's going to be on the back foot, I think Marco Tulio is going to be the one marching straight forward. So for me, my concern is that CLD can't get his offense going because Tulio is just too aggressive in his face with the pressure. And my concern for Marco Tulio is that he's very hittable, and CLD is kind of a sniper. The guy has decent power, and he's very crafty with the striking. And again, this is kind of a, CLD's been there. He's paying his dues in the UFC, fighting higher-level guys, Gregory Rodriguez, guys like Eric Anders, who have a ton of experience. Marco Tulio is yet to experience something like that, which kind of leans me on the CLD side right now. This is a tough one to kind of predict. Going from Tresean Gore to Christian Leroy Duncan is a big step up in itself. I think Christian Leroy Duncan is going to have success at some point in this fight, whether he can win a round or not. I kind of lean that he can. But my official play here, man, I think both guys are tough and durable and hard to finish. I'm going to take the over 2.5 rounds at -120. I think this thing goes to a decision. It's going to be a close call if I'm being honest. But, I think CLD has shown a chin. I think Marco Tulio has a chin and is going to be tough to put out too. I think the over is a decent price here. That's what we're rocking with. Not one I love or anything. The fight is a hard one to call, like I said. So you got to be careful with that one. All right, next fight up. Let me get back to the page. Oh, let's see. Ismail Bonfim taking on Taco Padilla. And, man, this is another one. It's like you got a slight underdog in Taco Padilla, who's undefeated in the UFC, just keeps pulling the rabbit out of his hat and winning. And then you got a guy in Bonfim who has dropped the ball a couple of times. He's been a kind of a letdown in one of his wins against Vince Pichel. Terrence McKinney just gassed out and he finished him. But I mean, I remember him being a closely lined, I believe it was a closely lined fight against Benoit Saint-Denis. He gets choked out in round one. Nazim Salikhov hurt him badly, cut him open. The doctor had to stop that thing at the end of round one. Ismail Bonfim, I guess what I'm getting at, is there to be hit, and he's not some like lights out grappler to where I'm going to be super concerned about Padilla if this fight hits the mat either. Padilla has shown good grappling. He's got a submission win in the UFC, and he also hits, somewhat hard. We saw what he did to Rongju's eye. He's just a very damaging and dangerous striker, especially when he can get into his groove. My one knock I do have on Taco Padilla is that sometimes he's a little too patient. He sits on the back foot. He's going to look to counter, catch you while you're rushing in, which I think he could have success with against Bonfim, because Bonfim, at times just kind of goes ape shit and marches forward and starts swinging. But I think Padilla on the back foot against Bonfim is also going to be susceptible to getting hit, and Bonfim does have some power. If this thing hits the mat, I think both guys do have somewhat of a submission game to where, somebody could get submitted here too. I see violence in this one, and I'll tell you why to cap it off. Ismail Bonfim is 2-2 in his last 4 fights, and I think he needs a big statement here, if I'm being honest. You're coming off of a loss. He's on the same card as his brother. They're going to be pumped up to get these wins. I think he comes out with his aggressive self. It's not going to be a Vince Pichel type of fight, and he looks to finish Taco Padilla. And Taco Padilla, like I said, is hittable. He could get knocked out here. He could get submitted. But on the other side, if Bonfim doesn't mind his P's and Q's rushing in with the pressure and aggressiveness, I think he could get clipped and hurt too. We've seen it before. So I'm taking this fight to end by finish. Right now it's at -115. I'm just hoping for violence in this spot, and we'll rock with that. All right, next fight up, we're getting Muslim Salikhov taking on Uros Medic. This one's going to be real simple for me, okay? Uros Medic does not have a good chin whatsoever. We saw it against Punahele Soriano where he just got absolutely demolished. We saw it again in really against Matthew Simmelsberger, who had him hurt multiple times, especially early in the fight. Jalen Turner was able to get a finish over him by submission. Miktabek Oralby submitted him. And we even saw him hurt against Gilbert Urbina early in the fight too. The guy is a phenomenal kickboxer with some power, but the guy also, his chin gives me concern. I think every single one of his UFC fights has ended either by knockout or submission. Actually, I think every single fight in his entire pro career has. So this is a killer be killed guy through and through with phenomenal power in the hands, but across from him in Muslim Salikhov, you can kind of say the same thing. Like, this guy's coming off of a huge upset knockout win over Carlos Leal in round 1, spinning wheel kick against Kanan Song in his fight before that. Randy Brown knocked him out. Nicholas Dalby did some damage, couldn't find the finish, but he's knocking out Andre Fiallo. He's getting knocked out by Li Jingliang. The guy has been involved in a ton of finishes in the UFC too. I don't see either of these guys wanting to go to the grappling. They're too much of striking specialists who know they can knock out the other. So I'm going to rock with this fight to end by KO. I'm going to keep it super simple. I don't care who it happens to. I think somebody's getting put out. If I'm leaning one way or the other, I think it's this dog or pass again. I think a lot of these fights are this week that are somewhat closely lined. You're getting a guy in Salikhov who's a lifelong striker who has power against the guy in Uros Medic with not a good chin whatsoever. On the flip side, you could say the same thing for Medic. So, yeah, fight ends by KO, slightly into the dog in Salikhov, but somebody just get a knockout and we'll cash this one out. All right, next fight up, Matt Schnell, Joseph Morales. And this is another one I got somewhat of a confident take. I think Matt Schnell has always been a talented fighter. Jiu-jitsu is good, can find subs. His heart, the guy fights with a lot of heart. Whether he's got the durability to match that or not is you can make your own opinion about that. But the guy will, at least go out there and try to win in fights. Hasn't done a ton of winning as of late. I mean, beating Jimmy Flick by decision. I mean, it's Jimmy Flick at the end of the day. Before that is when with Sumaderji, where he was getting dropped left and right and wobbled, and then Sumaderji just kind of gassed after eating a big shot and got submitted. And, it's back in 2021 against Tyson Nam and his win before that. But, I will give him credit. His losses, Brandon Royval, Mateusz Nicolau, who at one point was pretty good. Steve Erceg is challenged for the belt. Cody Durden is tough out on any given night. So, Matt Schnell has mixed it up with the best of them in the division. Not always successful. My problem with Matt Schnell here is that I'm pretty sure he was either talking about retirement or actually retired after he got finished by Cody Durden. Came back, took the fight against Flick, and I thought that was just kind of helping the UFC out, and he was going to ride off into the sunset. But now he's back against the guy in Joseph Morales, who, yes, he's technically making his debut in the UFC, but he fought on the Ultimate Fighter finale on a live UFC card. He probably has that, those feelings down. He knows what to expect. And not to mention, man, this guy has actually fought in the UFC back in 2018. So the jitters, the nerves, the debut style or feel that this will have for him shouldn't be there. He's experienced everything. And he didn't just fight in the UFC, man. He fought Divas and Figueiredo, although he lost. He was very young. I believe he's fought, let's see who else he's fought. I want to say there's a few more notable names. Eric Shelton was the other one who's a good fighter in the UFC. Lost by split decision. But when he went on to the Ultimate Fighter, he fought Imanol Rodriguez, who's one of the standouts on this season's Contender Series. He beat him by split decision, and he was a massive dog against Alibi Adrias, which was back in August, who everybody saw him cash as another decent-sized underdog, and he won that by sub. When you look at his record, he wins the majority of his fights by submission, but if you watch him, he definitely has some striking in his back pocket. So with the chin of Schnell, I'm not going to be surprised if he gets clipped and put out here. But I think at some point, Joseph Morales is just going to overwhelm him with the wrestling and cage pushing and eventually take his back or get him to the mat. And even though Schnell has some submissions on the ground, I don't think he's as high level, as strong, or as fast with it as Joseph Morales is, the younger guy here. So I'm taking Joseph Morales to win this fight by finish, minus 130. Don't care if it's by knockout. Don't care if it's by sub. As long as he gets this thing done, we're going to cash one. And I think we'll have a decent prospect in Joseph Morales, too, if he can go out there and prove once again that he's a dangerous, dangerous fighter in this division. All right. Moving to the main event now. I believe that's crazy that Joseph Morales actually is getting a co-main event spot in his debut against Matt Schnell. Good for him. It's a big spot, man. He's got a lot to prove. I kind of like it. All right, main event time, though. Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. And I've kind of gone back and forth on this fight all week long for a couple of reasons. Gabriel Bonfim is 18-1. That's a phenomenal record. But it should be more like 18-3. Or 18-2 at the very least. I mean, he lost to Nicholas Dalby, just completely gassed out, and gets put out by TKO just in round 2. It's not like it was a late round 3 where he was just falling apart because it's late in the fight. I mean, this was midway through where he started to really gas. Kind of concerning. His fights before that, Trey Waters, Munir Lazez, and Trevin Giles, not the highest level of competition whatsoever. He finished all of them by submission in round 1. Then he goes to a decision with Ange Losa, which is kind of concerning to me because Ange takes a ton of damage. He goes out there and tries to wrestle at times and leaves his neck exposed. Goes out against Chaos Williams, who is way beyond cooked lately. Does not look like the same Chaos whatsoever. Submits him and then beats Wonderboy Thompson, a 41 or 2-year-old Wonderboy Thompson, by split decision in a fight that everybody's going to tell you he lost, which is a little bit concerning considering Wonderboy is a striker. Bonfim could not control him or lock in any submissions, and he was getting hurt badly by Wonderboy. Not that many people go out and get hurt by Wonderboy. Wonderboy is kind of a karate point fighter. He was finding those shots against Bonfim. I think he got robbed, if I'm being honest, but is what it is. Now you're getting Randy Brown, a guy who's younger than Wonderboy, but still Brown is on the back half of his career for sure, in his mid-30s. But Brown, what he brings to the table is just a more dangerous style of striking than a Wonderboy Thompson, a guy who's fights longer than Wonderboy with the hands at least. A guy who can be taken down, But at the same time, Randy Brown's no slouch with the jiu-jitsu. He's not going to be lost on the mat and not know what to do. I think with those long limbs, it's going to make it hard for Bonfim to get into the dominant positions that he wants to. And I think it's going to make it easier for Randy Brown to work back to his feet. And the more he does that, the more tired that Bonfim is going to get, and the more opportunities that Randy Brown is going to have to find those big shots and get off the cage. And, the longer this fight goes and the longer he can keep doing that, Bonfim will start to get tired. Those takedowns won't come as easy, and the striking is not going to be near as dangerous. Whereas I think Randy Brown has decent cardio, and this is a 5-round fight. Bonfim, you can tell, if there was 2 more rounds in that Wonderboy Thompson fight, he was absolutely cooked and probably going to get knocked out. He couldn't go past 2 rounds with Nicholas Dalby without gassing out and getting finished. And, even in some of his other fights, you can tell this guy wastes, he doesn't waste. I'm not going to say he wastes energy, but he burns hot. He comes out and he's looking to fight hard in the first 2 rounds. And if you can't find the finish, sometimes you can bite yourself in the ass. And I think you do that badly against guys like Randy Brown, who have tons of UFC experience. They're a veteran. They know how to handle themselves, conserve energy when needed, but look to take your head off at other times when the opportunities arise. So I think Randy Brown, obviously he knocks out Nicholas Dalby. The only person to ever do that or even finish Nicholas Dalby, that's a feature in its own. Before that, loses split decision to Brian Battle in a fight everybody thought that he won. Beats Zaleski dos Santos before that. Knocks out Muslim Salikhov before that. This guy's could be on a 5-fight win streak, knocking out some guys who are pretty impressive in their own right. So I'm going to go with the underdog here. Give me Randy Brown. I like the UFC experience. I like the striking. I like the get-up game from him. And, if he comes out here just a little more aggressive than normal, kind of like he was against Nicholas Dalby, I think he comes out here and it can make a statement. Randy Brown, plus 145. Don't even leave it to the judges in this era of the UFC with everything going on. Just go out there and get that finish. So that's how we'll close the night with an underdog here. Appreciate you guys once again. You guys are seriously great. We're going to make a good community here. We're, I think, 6 or 7 months into this show so far. We're going to do something really big for our 1-year anniversary, which is going to be in the middle of April. We'll give away $1,000 or something, man. We'll do something really cool. Just make sure you're subscribed. Again, drop a comment, drop a like, and if you are subscribed, I'm going to choose one person to send $100 to on Venmo or PayPal. All you got to do is drop that comment, and I'll choose one person and do it on next week's episode. But coming off of a big week, I want everybody here to go out there and make some money this week, whether you want to fade me, whether you want to ride with me, whatever you feel in your gut. Always go with your gut. Don't just listen to me. Like, if you don't agree with me, go with what you're feeling. That should be a big rule of thumb, because you're going to hate it if you look back and said, shit, I told this dude lost this one. I was leaning that original play and I didn't go with it. So always trust your gut. Number 1 rule in betting. And we'll see you guys next week for a massive, massive card. I can't wait for it. I'm already watching tape, breaking down film, looking at plays. We're going to have a big one next week. So again, thank you guys. Drop that comment, hit subscribe. We'll see you in the next week for UFC 322.